Finish this phrase for me. Bread and peanut butter and jelly. America. Where are you? Salt and Fusion. Fish and Fish and chops sounds better. Fish and chops. Fish and I love ampersands. There's power in ampersand. There is the power in the and. There is power in both and. I love how it's both. It's not just fish. Give me the chips. I don't just want peanut butter. You know, peanut butter sandwiches are probably the worst sandwiches. Why? So dry. You just eat it and I just need something for my tongue, you know? It's like, what do I do with this? But then you add, not jelly, you add some jam, yeah? You add some jam, and then it just, boom, you know, the both things, that combination. It's so glorious. I mean, hands up any of you who start their way from the outside, the crust, and then just go to the glorious center. Yeah? Come on, I love doing that. I just work my way in. I chomp, 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 chomp. Work my way into the glorious donut center. It's usually star-shaped because of the bites, yeah? And then it's like, oh, this is it. Imagine if they sold it like that, you know, just like that. It looks like... Maybe the bites thing would be a bit creepy, but and it's so good. Just how that peanut butter and jam just mixes together. It's so strange how salt and pepper works so well. I was gonna say, and you can think your own. If I asked you to make a list of all the things with wonderful ampersands, you could think of so many. There is power in the both and. And for us as a church, one thing we need to recognize, how can we become a strong church? We need to embrace the ampersand. For those that you don't know what I'm talking about is this. We need to embrace the ampersand. We need to embrace the both and idea. The power of the church lies in both and. Because up till now in our reading of Acts, the church was all huddled together. They were sharing everything. They were going to the temple daily. It was so tight. You know what I mean? Like it was almost like a clique, but it was tight. It was a good clique. It was family, you know. Who he loves Fast Furious, yeah? La Familia, yeah? This family, yeah? Family. We are family. That's just my, anyway, don't worry about it. If you don't know, you don't know, all right? It's okay. But this is us together. And the church was so strong. People were added to it every single day. And so many people are becoming part of this spiritual family. And then, boom, Acts 8 happened. If you have a Bible, turn to Acts 8. This is after they martyred Stephen, the first person to be killed for his faith. And what happens in Acts 8 is Saul. Do you remember Saul? You guys know Saul. Later on, he was known as the Apostle Paul, but formerly known as Saul, approved of the execution of Stephen. Yeah, this is Stephen, the first martyr. And there arose on that day a great persecution against the church in Jerusalem. And what happened to them? They were all scattered. They're all scattered. They were so strong together. Man, they were unbelievably strong together. They were so strong, they were just selling everything. People who had land were just selling it. It doesn't even matter anymore. It's all about the family. It's all about Christ. It's all about church. It's all about this wonderful thing of being part of the kingdom of heaven. And they were just selling it. It was just so unbelievably tight. And then God let this happen. God let this happen. He didn't cause the persecution, but he let the persecution. Could he have stopped the persecution? Yeah, I think he could have. But he let the church be persecuted, and he let them become scattered. They were all scattered throughout all the regions of Judea and Samaria except the apostles. What happened? The church got so strong, so tight, but it was not going out. Because remember what Jesus said to them, go and make disciples in Jerusalem, in Judea and Samaria, and to all the ends of the earth. That's what he said. But the gospel just stayed in Jerusalem. It wasn't getting out. So he let Saul do what was evil, persecute the Christians. He let that happen in order that the church would finally be scattered out. Devout men buried Stephen and made great lamentations over him, but Saul was ravaging the church. Entering house after house, he dragged off men and women and committed them to prison. This persecution was intense. This persecution ripped apart families, ruined livelihoods. This is an intense persecution, and God let this scattering happen. The church is called to be not just gathered, it's called to also be scattered. It's called to be scattered. Disciples are not made on Sunday. Disciples are made on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Disciples aren't just made by the pastor and the pastor's programs. Disciples are made through not only the pastor, not only the leadership, but by every member of the church. That's why for our church, we're so strong on this. We are all about making and what? Maturing disciples. That's what we're all about. We're all about making and maturing disciples. Because what happens when you scatter the church? Guess what? Because look at this. Isn't this interesting? Except the apostles stayed in Jerusalem. So who built the next church in Judea and Samaria? Who was leading those churches? It wasn't the apostles. It wasn't the leaders. It was now those Christians. And so disciples, the first disciples, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and the rest of the disciples, Peter, James, and John, all of them, they were making disciples. And now because of the scattering of the church, now the disciples need to make disciples. And there the church really began. It was ironic because Saul, who scattered the church, would later go and then support the Christians and then plant strong churches in those regions, which is just so crazy. Nobody would have picked that, right? That the one who scattered it would later be the apostle sent to them to go grow it. I mean, that's genius. I mean, that's got God written all over it. It's like you would have never picked that. And then everyone was skeptical. Everyone was so scared of Saul. They're like, he's converted? Yeah, how about no? How about, I don't trust him. No. Because he scattered the church. And so it's remarkable that he's the one who writes all these letters to the churches to grow the churches in all the places that were scattered because of him. God's divine genius. You can never underestimate this God. And this God wants to scatter. It's not about just gathering. How are we going to be strong as a church? It's not just about strong Sundays. Yes, strong Sundays are important. It's not just about strong home groups. Yes, that's so important. But it's not only about just what we do inside as a church, but it's us as a church when we're also scattered. I want us as a church to embrace the idea that we don't do church. We don't even go to church. I try not to use this language so that my children don't suddenly think church is a building. We are the church. And frankly, when you meet me, you're going to get churched. I am the encounter of church. You know how some people go, I didn't go to church this Sunday. But if you're talking to me, you're just getting church right now as you speak. Because I am the church. You didn't go to church, but you met me. I am the church. Does this make sense? Whenever anyone meets you, they're getting homed. I just made that up. Yeah? They're getting homed. They're getting churched. They don't know it. They don't need to know it. But that's what's happening. Why? Because you're the church. As much as we want people to come to church, we as the church go to them. We're the church that is gathered, and also we are scattered. We are making disciples all the time. We're in the business of making disciples because that's the chief business of the Father. And this is not about making disciples. Let me be clear again. It's not about bringing people to church. That's only part of it. Making friendships is part of the discipleship process. Creating trusted networks is part of the discipleship process. That's all part of this. And so this is why I'm so proud when I see you guys meet people outside of our church, our non-members. Man, I'm so proud because finally we're living the ampersand. We're doing it, man. We're the church not only when we're gathered, but we're the church when we're also scattered. Amen? We're the church not just on Sundays, but we're church Monday to Saturday. We're not just church in a building, but we're church also in the offices, in the workplaces, in the playgrounds, in the schools. We are the church. We're the church. And when people meet us, they meet Christ because Christ lives inside of us. You know, I love how we embrace our ampersand. I love how we embrace it. We're the church of the young and the old. Don't you love that? I asked the parents, there's no kids ministry tonight because I want you guys to, I want even our guests to see this. This is intentional. This is us. This is what we do. We're not church of the old people and then the young people can go figure it out for themselves and we'll deal with them when they're adults. No, they are part of the church just as me. We're part of the church. This is a church for the young and the old. The dream of this church is that one day we'll be 4 generations deep. I want to see my great-grandchildren. I'm not kidding. And if it's not my blessing, then hopefully it's your blessing that you get to see great-grandchildren. Hopefully I'm not the one that they avoid, but the one that they're drawn to. If it's not by my words, it'll be by my lollies. I'll do whatever it takes to have the children come to me. But the dream of this church is that we're going to be 4 generations deep. Sumi and I asked the Lord, when we planted the church, we said, Lord, if it be your will, give us 30 years. Give us 30 years. We don't want to leave anywhere. We don't want to do anything. We just want to go deep. And I love it because most of the people that are married here, Sumi and I officiated it. Every baby here that was born outside of COVID, we went and saw. Immediately after, fresh, when they didn't even look like what they look like now. Just alien species just came out. And then they metamorphosized into human beings. Friends, this is a church where it's about young and old. I love that. I love how we're a church that not only believes in the church here, but we're also believing in who we are as a church out. I love that. I love that our church is about Christians, and get this, and not so Christian. I love that about our church. I love that home is about Christians and non-Christians. I love that we care just as much as about hanging out with people that are not going to church as much as we are about hanging out with people who go to church. That's why I love what's happening with volleyball. I love it. That's a fantastic expression of church. I love it. People are getting church without even knowing it. And you guys don't need to wear it on your sleeve, and you guys don't. Do what you're doing already. It's just wonderful. Because when they see you, they see Christ. They don't even know what it is. They can't put a finger on it. But they know. Frankly speaking, and I apologize to our guests, but actually I'll just turn it to something else. I guess you can read between the lines. But I love that we have friends to invite people to Easter that are not Christian or they don't go to church. I love that. Because you know what? You cannot cold call invite someone to an Easter party at a church. You need to have established a relationship there. You need to have been the church somewhere with someone in order to have a relationship to do that. I love it that we have even guests here because you guys are living as the church. This is the very embodiment of the ampersand, that we're the church both in and out. Both and. Do you like that? We're the church of the ampersand. And this is how we're going to become stronger.